Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into Gamecock Central. Kendall Smith and Wes Mitchell joining you here for another recruiting rundown. And our apologies because we did not come at you last week with the recruiting rundown. So we've got a little bit of time and things to talk about here that we didn't get to last week. So, Wes, first and foremost, how you doing? A big win for the Gamecocks over Akron on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm good, Kendall. Big win. And, Akron might not be a weekend people would circle and say, oh, that was probably a big recruiting weekend for South Carolina. But still, some big targets on campus, some guys committed to other programs that were on campus. And sounds like another successful recruiting weekend for the Gamecocks.
Well, we want to start off by talking about a big name that was in town at South Carolina this past weekend. Malik Clark, South Carolina, trying to flip him right now. He's committed to Florida State. I can see why maybe he's second guessing that commitment at this point. A 2025 wide receiver out of Rock Hill High School. What's the story with him, Wes?
Yeah, you mentioned Rock Hill. That's an area South Carolina has traditionally done pretty well in, Kendall. And, it's a kid they really wanted the first time around when he committed to Florida State. It was really close down the stretch. UNC was also heavily involved there. And FSU really made a final push and was able to land him, I would say, in the final weeks leading up to his commitment. So South Carolina has continued to push. They've remained in contact here. Mike Furry, who has a really good relationship with Malik Clark, has made it known that he's a big priority for South Carolina. As you alluded to, not the start on the field that FSU probably anticipated coming into this season. South Carolina, and on their side, a 3-1 start, have had some things to sort of be positive about. So South Carolina has kept pushing that. And, I'm not ready to say this is a kid who's definitely going to flip from Florida State. I think he does still really like FSU. I think he likes their coaches, but you would say a clear sign that there is still some interest among sort of between Malik and South Carolina in the fact that he came to campus, and not even for some massive game. This was just him coming up, getting back in touch with the coaches, spending some time around them. By all indications, had a good time, spent some time around 2026 wide receiver Jordan Gidron, who is a kid he knows, who's also a very highly recruited in-state prospect. So I would say something to keep an eye on at this point, and a really, really positive development for South Carolina with Malik Clark.
Well, let's keep talking about in-state guys, specifically guys in the class of 2025. Josh Smith out of Dutch Fork High School, class of 2025 linebacker, just got an offer from South Carolina. This is exciting, especially when you talk about guys that go to school so close to South Carolina. So, Wes, what do you got on Josh Smith?
Yeah, Kendall, this state always produces a guy or two who sort of find themselves a little bit higher on the recruiting radar late in the process. That is the case with Josh Smith. He's picked up 2 SEC offers in recent weeks, and it just so happened to be from South Carolina and Ole Miss. Those 2 schools, of course, are going to square off here 2 weekends from now, and I expect him to be at that game as well. I think he's going to be at Ole Miss this weekend. He was in Columbia for South Carolina's win over Akron, and, of course, the close, some would say controversial, loss to LSU. So he's been on campus a lot lately. And this is a player who played more of kind of like a defensive end, edge, pass rush type role earlier in his career. He has transitioned to linebacker at Dutch Fork for his senior season, has really excelled there. South Carolina has continued to watch him and wanted to see if he could play in space at that linebacker position. Obviously, they like what they saw because they did offer him here recently. And like you said, Irmo, right down the road from South Carolina where Dutch Fork is. This was a big offer for him. I think South Carolina firmly in this one, committed to Coastal Carolina, actually. So kudos to them for getting in on him early and landing a commitment from him. But both South Carolina and Ole Miss pushing. He wants to take some official visits and then make a final decision. But certainly you would think the Gamecocks have a lot going in their favor with him.
We talk about the 2025 guys. Let's talk 2026 and some underclassmen as well. 2 big weekends in a row for South Carolina with LSU and Akron. What names can you tell us that were on campus that aren't 2025 guys, but maybe 2026 or younger than that these past 2 weekends?
Yeah, 2026s, 27s, 28s. South Carolina really getting a bunch of guys, especially in-state prospects, on campus the last couple of weeks. And I mentioned earlier Jordan Gidron. He's at Ridgeview High School, big-time playmaker. He's a top 100 prospect in the country for that class. getting him on campus multiple times in a row, that's a big sign there, I think, in terms of where South Carolina stands with him, like their position. And then let's talk about Jalen McGill. He's a 4-star running back in that 2026 class, Kendall. We kind of wondered after Carolina had the change at running backs coach where things were. He was a big priority for Montario Hardesty, and it just felt a little bit quiet, at least in terms of news getting out about Jalen McGill. But he's now been on campus 2 weekends in a row. We know for a fact that he is a big target for South Carolina, like a priority target for Carolina. Marquell Blackwell, the current running backs coach, was at his game on Friday, another sign of heavy interest from Carolina. So I think he's gone from someone that we weren't sure how much mutual interest there was to, I think there's some really strong interest on both sides of this thing. So I have not heard yet who all will be in for the Ole Miss game, but I wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina doesn't push to try to get him back on campus again. And that would be 3 straight home games for them getting Jalen McGill on campus. So as we know, in-state already a priority, or always a priority, I should say. And you can already get a good feel for some of these underclassmen that South Carolina has prioritized at an early point.
And you have to imagine that Ole Miss weekend is going to be another huge recruiting weekend for South Carolina. We don't have the final list of who will be coming, and those can be so flexible, especially as you get closer and closer to game day. But be sure to stay tuned on GamecockCentral.com. Follow us on social medias at Gamecock Central. It's Wes Mitchell GC, right? That's your handle? Okay, yes. Wes Mitchell GC, because he will have you posted on everything that you need to know when it comes to that Ole Miss weekend. But just talking about it, I don't know why it does that. Whenever I do a thumbs up, it gives a little.
What? I've never seen that before.
It's like it happens sometimes. I wonder if it'll do it again. Thumbs up. Okay. Oh, I got a firework. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow, we're going crazy on the recruiting.
Who's doing that? What is this AI? What's happening?
Foreshadowing for the Ole Miss weekend, a lot of fireworks. Are they going to run out of fireworks again because South Carolina's offense is going to be so good? We'll have to see. Anyways, on the note of the Ole Miss game, Wes, I know we don't have the final list, but what are the plans for South Carolina on this bye week leading up to next week against Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think it will be similar to LSU, Kendall. Like, I know we kind of circled that one leading up to it. We said, hey, this is a weekend you're going to see a bunch of big-time targets in. This is going to be one of those games that people just want to see. I think if you're a recruit, if you're a high school football player, you're going to say, man, you're going to have 3-1 South Carolina. Ole Miss, if they can get by Kentucky this weekend, will be undefeated, will be a top 5 team in the country. And so, exciting game. I think there's a possibility, Kendall, of maybe an official visit or two as well, and certainly a ton of unofficials. All the committed guys, I imagine, will be on campus. And, of course, South Carolina will probably make another push to get a Malik Clark back on campus. There's probably 5 to 10 prospects that are committed elsewhere, because we talk about it all the time, Kendall. These guys that want to go ahead and commit in the summer, get it out of their way. And it sounds good in theory, but a lot of these kids who commit early are still keeping an eye on everything going on, of course, at the school they're committed to, but at some of the other programs that are coming after them as well. And we're seeing that with Malik Clark, but we're seeing that with several other prospects. And like you said, we'll have a much better feel. Matter of fact, we're going to do one of these next week. We missed last week, like you said.
Yes.
100%. We're going to do one. Thumbs up emoji again, Kendall. We're going to do one of those. And we no fireworks this time. You've run out of fireworks already. But we're going to have people covered both here on our recruiting rundown and on GamecockCentral.com.
There we go. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us here on the recruiting rundown. Apologies for not being here last week. It won't happen again. For Wes Mitchell, I'm Kendall Smith. Let's try it one more time. You try it. Thumbs up. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you guys for watching.